What is up, everybody, and welcome into the Locked On Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Mares from DNVR, the DNVR.com. You could subscribe, become a member, $5 a month. You get a free t-shirt, and you get access to all the premium content, including The List, my film study deep dive on the Denver Nuggets. I'm flying solo today. Matt Moore's got the night off. I took a night off earlier this week. He's taking a night off now. We'll be back together. I think we'll actually record on Friday. Tomorrow's game is an 8 o'clock start. Thursday nights I also do Locked On NBA, so I'm going to be it'll probably be too late, but we'll make up for it with a Friday show, and then of course Saturday Nuggets Lakers, and we'll have a post game show on Saturday as well. So we do have a couple more shows coming to you this week. Want to thank everybody for making us your first listen of the day. We're free and available on all podcast platforms. And if you're in the chat now, I am feeling better, Big Honey. I see that completely. I haven't had symptoms for 3 days. I actually tested negative yesterday, so I am 100% back. Tomorrow I'll be back at the DNVR bar. Very excited for it. Be back in studio with my guys doing the pregame and postgame show for what is hopefully the start of a Denver Nuggets run. 6-game homestand. It's going to be huge. Today's show, if you guys, by the way, if you're watching this one on YouTube, I highly encourage you. We record these late at night. So I know not everybody can watch these. Usually it's like 11, 12 o'clock at night, sometime in there, sometimes 10 o'clock. I think right now it's 10:45. If you want to watch the show live, it makes it much more interactive. And today is going to be a great example of this. Since I am solo, if I see some questions come in, I'll obviously stop the show and go to those questions. But I will just going through some numbers, on off days and stuff, I'll either go back and watch film and cut clips for the list, or I'll try to do a deep dive into some numbers or some trends, watch some other games. Tonight I watch Lakers Kings. Lakers lose to the Sacramento Kings. The Lakers, honestly, sadly, I want to clown them, but they remind me of the Nuggets in that you got LeBron who can do some things. You got Westbrook who's just absolutely horrible. And then you got a bunch of role players that you just never know what you're going to get from them. But the Lakers lose tonight to Sacramento. I watched the Bulls game. The Nets just stomped on the Bulls tonight, although the Bulls a little bit shorthanded. But I went through some numbers, and I want to talk about this. What I got is 3 things that the Nuggets are not doing well, and hopefully try to dissect them, go deep on them and dissect them, and try to provide maybe some potential solutions for them. Here's number 1. This is the Denver Nuggets' rank in offensive rebound percentage in the Nikola Jokic era, going all the way back to 2016. The Nuggets rank offensive rebound percentage is the percentage of available offensive rebounds that the Nuggets grab. This is a better indicator than rebounds per game or offensive rebounds per game. This tells you every time there was a chance for an offensive rebound, what percentage did the Nuggets grab? And then making it a ranking, you can see how they stacked up relative to their season. In 2016, the Nuggets ranked 3rd in offensive rebound percentage. In 2017, they ranked 2nd. In 2018, they ranked 2nd. In 2019, they ranked 1st. In 2020, they ranked 3rd. In 2021, this was last year, they ranked 2nd. So every single season prior to this one, the Nuggets have ranked in the top 3 in offensive rebound percentage. And I would say more than almost any other singular stat, offensive rebound percentage is the single biggest statistical indicator, statistical signature of the Nikola Jokic era. This year, the Denver Nuggets are 22nd in offensive rebound percentage. 22nd, which is pretty crazy. So you go from 3rd, 2nd, 1st, 3rd, 2nd, 22nd. And that tells you, now here's one of those things. We try to break down what this problem is. This is one of those things. You'll often hear me talking with Matt, my co-host, about why turnovers, I don't like, there are games like last night where Denver was sloppy and careless with turnover. There is such a thing as a sloppy turnover. But when you see a turnover trend, usually I say, okay, there's something going on. You got to find out what the problem is. It's not just the turnovers. It's something that is generating lots of turnovers. The same thing is true of offensive rebounds. This is totally a knee bone is connected to the leg bone, which is connected to the hip bone. One of those things where you have hip pain. It might be because you need new shoes or something like this. It might be one of those things, and I actually think that it is. To isolate the problem, to me, this is what makes offensive rebounding so great, in my opinion, for the Denver Nuggets. There's a couple factors. Number 1, Nikola Jokic is a point center, and because he's a point center, a center has to guard him. This is one of the things that makes a Jokic so valuable, and that center has to come all the way out onto the perimeter. So teams that have, and almost every single team in the NBA is this way, who their best defensive rebounder is their center, is automatically at a disadvantage because their center is so far away from the basket. The second thing that I think makes Jokic ball lend itself to offensive rebounding is that when the ball gets popping or just moving, even if it's not popping, like popping is usually like quick pass, and they find the open guy. But even if it's just moving because you have Jokic doing things up top, running pick and rolls and what have you, you still have extended the court so that the defense isn't in the paint. The defense has to be all over in different spots. And, you put a shooter on this side, put a shooter in the corner over here, you space the court. Offensive rebounding is aided by spacing, bigs being outside and spacing. Right now, Nikola Jokic, to get the ball, I mean, he plays outside on the perimeter a lot still. I mean, you look at this profile for the Nuggets, they're still doing a lot of the same things, like in terms of pick and roll frequency, although everything is down just like 1%, post-ups up just a little bit. But Jokic is finding himself on the block a lot more, in large part because it's like you need somebody to score. Jokic is going to have to be down low. He's going to have to be inside. And then on top of that, teams are able to sit, as I've been talking about a lot, even when Jokic is posting up or on the elbow or even up at the top, teams are able to sit on other guys because they know they can run them off the line. They're not going to knock down threes. They're going to miss a lot of three-pointers. Maybe you'll run really bad, and Denver has some games this year with like 20 three-pointers. It's like, hey, they won those games. But 9 times out of 10, or I don't know what the number is, probably four times out of 5, you give Denver a lot of like semi-contested or run-out shots, and Denver's going to go cold enough at some point that you can get back into the game or even win the game. So because of that, in my opinion, you're not doing the things that open up the offensive rebounding opportunities. Now, you could say, Paul Millsap has been there. He's kind of a traditional big. We know that Michael Porter Jr. is a very good rebounder, although his numbers as a rebounder is very interesting. It really is kind of lineup dependent and position dependent for him. But he's been a very good offensive rebounder, and I think more than anything, he's a great floor spacer, so he opens up the court, and it lends itself to offensive rebounds for everybody. But the Nuggets just aren't getting a lot of offensive rebounds relative to previous years. Now, how do you fix this if you're the Nuggets? To me, again, you can't fix the rebound. Just say, okay, we'll go grab more, like Aaron Gordon crash harder, or maybe we play just another big. Although I do think that we saw a little bit of a change in this once JaMychal Green entered the starting lineup. You've seen Denver rebound a little bit better. Offensive rebounds hadn't necessarily skyrocketed or anything like that. But I do think having an extra body in there are things that have the Nuggets' profile has looked different in the minutes that JaMychal Green and Jokic are playing together. So I do think that is part of it, trying to give him more rebounders or telling another player, hey, we need to emphasize this. But to me, to fix this problem, you probably have to address the broader problem, which is that you just are not getting the defense moving. The defense, it's very easy to defensive rebound if you get to sit and watch and then like, okay, shots going up, find your guy. If you're rotating, got to tag, got to close out. Now the shot's up, I got to find a guy and box out, a lot harder. So that to me is issue number one with the Denver Nuggets, offensive rebounding. And I think, honestly, when I've talked about the Kenneth Faried Jokic lineup and why that was so good. You're putting that pressure on the baseline. What I think Denver can probably do this. Aaron Gordon has not been himself over these last, handful of games. He took some time off, then he come back. Last night he had a great game. Him and Jokic, only two guys really that showed up, and he was fantastic. I think Denver needs to find him along the baseline a little bit more. But those are little fixes. To me, you got to address a bigger problem. But one way to kind of judge whether or not the Nuggets are getting back to their old selves is whether or not those offensive rebound numbers are going up at all. Take a first break right here and talk about Prize Picks. I don't know if you guys know about them. You've been hearing me tell about you for months. Have you signed up yet? If you haven't, now it's the perfect time. For a limited time, Prize Picks has an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all of our users. Users get $50 for free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point, but you got to use code NBA. This is an easy. I hate that we have different codes for Locked On all the time, but this one, NBA, very easy, 3 letters. That's right. This is an exclusive offer available to Locked On fans only. Use promo code NBA. Prize Picks has the best NBA DFS prop game on the market. Prize Picks offers more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator. And they offer all the superstar players as well as bench players, only recording a handful of minutes. So it really takes smart people. You have to know, like, hey, this is the year, by the way, I think, of DFS, because guys that are really paying attention have such an edge, because not everybody, everybody just scouts the main guys. But this year it's like, hey, I don't know, is Davon Reed going to play a lot tonight? Like, do you have a scout on every team's version of Davon Reed? If you do, if you are one of those guys that's following it, Prize Picks might be really nice for you to win some money and just to have a good time. So go to prizepicks.com today or go to your app store and download the app. All users deposit or use the promo code NBA. Get that $50 for free. So check it out. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. All right, back here. I got a question from Swipa, my guy Swipa. What do you think the Nuggets will actually do to shore up their guard situation? Just wait till Murray gets back, do nothing, and hope Facu turns into a different player trade. So the Facu thing is tough because, I've said this all the time. I think players become scapegoated in any situation. It's not just of Denver. They become scapegoated where it's like, hey, that's the guy, that's the problem. Facu has a role. I've talked to George Karl about this, who I trust a lot more than my own opinion, but even me watching Facu, I believe this. Facu has a role in the NBA, and he has a role in the Denver Nuggets. He's a good player. I don't think he has a role with the lineup that has no shooting, and I certainly don't think he has a role alongside what needs to be your knockout punch, which is Nikola Jokic. Anytime you see, and Ryan Blackburn, my guy, had some great stats on this. I retweeted some of them. I've talked about some of them on the show, but the numbers have only gotten worse over that last handful of games. Anytime you have Nikola Jokic on the court and you put two-man pairings together and you get a sample size over 70 minutes or so, 100 minutes, even though that's a small sample size. Anytime you get over, we'll say 100 minutes, and you have a serious negative two-man net rating with Jokic, you think, perk up. You think, something's wrong here. Emmanuel Mudiay, not a good player at all, not a good point guard, still had a positive net rating with Nikola Jokic over time. Facu in 180 minutes is like a minus 9.9. Not only is it just like not great, when you have Jokic on the court, that net rating should be plus 10 or better. Not only is it dragging it down to being like a lower end positive, it's dragging it down to be an enormous negative. And here's what's crazy. That number that I shared in 180 minutes isn't just with Jokic. It's with Jokic and Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon, another piece that almost anytime you pair him with Jokic, the net rating is going to go through the roof. So you have this, and I think what you have to look at and say, Facu is a very tricky player. You can play him in very specific matchups, and he's going to bring you a lot. But I don't think you can play him in every single one. And the Nuggets are using him right now in many ways as like Monte Morris is the lead point guard, and then Facu is like, hey, but we're going to split the minutes and play Facu half with him. I just don't think you can do that. So what does Denver do with their guard rotation? They don't have a ton of options right now. But to me, I'm more concerned with maximizing the Jokic minutes and figuring out what you're going to do there, especially with Jamal Murray, hopefully not too far away. Even if we go into March, we're only talking about 6 weeks. So hopefully getting back into a flow of, okay, this is what we do. This is how we play. Let's get more minutes with him. And then that second unit, you can start to adjust. Marcus Howard is upgraded now, I think, to questionable for this next game. It's crazy to think. I never would have thought this like 4 weeks ago, but Marcus Howard actually can make a big impact on this team because you need it. Like you need some guys that can shoot, and he's one guy that definitely can shoot. Will Barton looks like he'll play tomorrow. So he's, hopefully all the people that thought Barton took bad shots, it's like, you want to see bad shots, go watch the second half of that Nuggets game when they scored 27 points in a half. Desperately miss a guy like Will Barton. So he's back. That gives you a little bit of alleviation. But to me, if Facu is weighing down your Jokic minutes, you've got a problem, and the Jokic minutes are way more important. So that's where you go. Other thing I want to talk about here is drives. Another crazy one. So the Oklahoma City Thunder are a massive outlier. They're number one in the NBA. I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort, terrific drive guys. Giddey, terrific drive guy. They lead the NBA with 65 drives per game. This is according to NBA.com. These numbers are super reliable. These aren't like estimates or anything. 64 drives per game. That's 11 more than any other team in the NBA. So they are a huge outlier. Let's throw them out. The Orlando Magic, they are 15th. They are average with 44 drives. And if you go up like 10 spots and you go down 10 spots, everybody was within like 49 to 40, somewhere in that range. The Warriors are 29th in the NBA with 38.2 drives. A lot of this is stylistic. The Warriors obviously play a different style, guys running off screens, Steph Curry, a lot of pick and roll, this or that. But they're 29th with 38.2 drives per game. The Nuggets are 30th. They're last, and they have 31.9. Almost 7, or I guess it is 6.5, 6.3, fewer drives than the 29th most frequent drive team. Denver does not drive to the basket, and they don't drive the basket because they don't have guys that can successfully drive to the basket outside of Will Barton. I've talked about this too much, so I don't want to belabor the point. I just want to put some stats to some of the stuff that I've been talking. Like, I go and look at these stats, and they're matching the eye test. The reason I go to look for these is because I'm watching the game, and I'm thinking, why doesn't Denver ever collapse the defense and make them move? I just mentioned how defenses against Denver can sit in the paint and it makes it harder to rebound. When you have guys that just can't get into the paint and make teams go, oh crap, we got to react, we got to rotate over. Well, that's when then it makes it so much easier. If you do get guys doing that, you can kick out for three, you can do a bunch of things. By the way, Oklahoma City, being that high in drives per game, yet having the 30th best 3-point field goal percentage in the NBA, that tells you how good Shea and Lou Dort and Josh Giddey and those guys are, man. Like those guys really know how to get into the paint. Facu Campazzo can't finish at the rim, so he's not much of a threat, and that's why a lot of times he doesn't even get in there. In fact, lately, for whatever reason, we used to see Facu do the old Steve Nash thing where he would drive into the paint and kind of circle around under the basket, force the switch, and then pull the ball back out, and now you do something else. You don't even get that. I don't know what VUR means, by the way, in the chat, guys. You have to clarify that one. You used to see that. You don't even see that anymore. So even those like false drives to create a switch aren't happening. Monte Morris is a great player, but he's not a drives guy. You know, he's not like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, just always putting pressure. He's good, comes off, gets to that free throw line, knocks down the jumper, hits the pocket pass to Jokic, and if everybody clears out, he keeps them honest by getting to the basket, and he can finish there. He's got a really nice hesitation game. And I think, by the way, with Monte, don't forget he's also been injured a little bit. I think some of these numbers, and also, I mean, this is the biggest hope. If you're a Nuggets fan, as everybody watching this, I'm sure is, your best hope is that maybe Monte is going to have a little bit of like, okay, he gets healthy and he starts playing. And the Nuggets have looked their best when Monte has been able to kind of run the ship more. Hopefully we see more and more of that. But Monte's not a drives guy. Will Barton is. And, you know, one of the things that I think is very underappreciated about Will Barton's game, and people send out the numbers and they'll be like, Will Barton shot 6 of 16 tonight. And you go back and watch all 10 of his misses. 2 or 3 of those will be offensive rebounded by Jokic. What did we just talk about in segment 1? Offensive rebounds. Sometimes there is value. In fact, not just sometimes. Oftentimes there is value in just putting pressure on the rim so that the rim protector who's tagging Jokic, who's trying to box out Jokic, has to make the decision of, I'm going to go over and challenge that shot, and he's going to miss the shot. But guess what? Jokic now has rebound position on the other side. And Will Barton is very good at this. He attacks, he throws it up, it gently falls off the rim. Jokic grabs it, puts it back up, and finishes. We used to call these Kobe assists because Kobe used to always miss a lot of shots. Pau Gasol would clean them up, or Shaquille O'Neal would clean them up. These are real things. These are valuable. When you don't have guys that are willing to barrel towards the rim, then you got problems. And so I think part of this is having guys be more aggressive. On the list for this last episode, by the way, I highly encourage you guys, I do the DNVR Nuggets post-game show. That's an instant reaction, sort of like we have fun, but it's like surface level. Me and Matt will go back and forth. And on off days, oftentimes I'll do notebooks like today. I'll get a little bit more in the weeds. Nothing is like what I do for the list. The list is a film study deep dive where I really try to explain basketball concepts and break down film and go into it. And that's by far, in my opinion, my best content. So if you guys like this type of conversation, subscribe and check out the list. Yeah, I promise you're going to enjoy it. But on this last game, I highlighted 2 plays in particular. It wasn't the last game of the game before. I highlighted 2 plays in particular where Austin Rivers drove off of attacked closeouts, got to the basket, and threw up what was an ugly layup. An ugly layup. And my comment on it was, this was great. Let's watch how this ugly layup unfolds. You put pressure on, defense rotates, you throw up a shot that doesn't have a chance or is ugly, like a better player would finish it. But whatever, it doesn't matter. You miss it. But guess what? Now Jokic has inside rebounding position. He's one of the best rebounders in all of the NBA. And if you're big, your rim protector jumps out to block it and doesn't make contact, probably means Jokic is going to grab an offensive rebound. So Austin Rivers doesn't do this very well, but he has done it a few times recently, and I'm hopeful maybe it's a new trend. Marcus Howard, even when he comes back, is not going to be one of those guys. Davon Reed, we actually haven't seen Davon Reed really be a drives guy either. Bones Hyland is probably second only to Will Barton in drives, and in some ways, he's actually better than Will Barton. This is why last show, when I'm talking with Matt Moore, and I think even arguing with him, because Matt Moore, he likes Bones' skill set. He likes this or that, but he's one of his MOs is he does not like, young players jumping the gun. Rightfully so. Fans tend to say, hey, young guys need to play. They need to play even when they haven't earned it. Here's the thing. Bones hasn't earned it. In my opinion, he has not been very good lately. He has not earned it, but he has a skill set that is much needed. He makes mistakes, but he has a skill set that the Denver Nuggets need. And when I keep saying skill set, I mean 2 things. 1, 3-point shot. Look, he hasn't made his 3 right now. So it's a hard argument to say, hey, he provides this extra spacing, although I still believe in his shot. And the 6-game homestand, I'm still staking it. I think the 6-game homestand is where Bones Hyland gets his rhythm going. But more important than the 3-point shot, or equally as important, Bones gets into the paint. Remember early in the season we were talking about this? Bones could get into the paint at will. It's like the easiest. Like there's guys in front of him. He has such good footwork and handle. His handle's so quick and such a good first step that he gets into the paint and collapses the defense. The Nuggets need that. He went 0 of 5 in the first half of last night's game. And I still feel, and the numbers bear this out, that the Nuggets were better with him than without him. Think about how crazy that is. Going 0 for 5 in a game is still better than not than just taking him out and going with a guy maybe it's going to make a shot here or there with fewer defensive mistakes. The Nuggets desperately need what Bones Hyland brings, and what they need even more is for Bones Hyland to sort of level up 2 or 3 levels. And I don't think he's going to be able to do that with these benchings. So they need to play him more. You drive more. Another thing that happens when you drive, as I'm talking about Austin Rivers stepping outside of himself and going, barreling towards the basket, you draw fouls. Denver doesn't draw fouls at a very high rate. Jokic does out on the perimeter, not shooting fouls. But driving and barreling your way to the basket and making that rim protector step up, yes, they get a lot of block shots, but you also get a lot of free throws. If you go through and look at the top free throw guys in the NBA in any given season, your Steph Currys, your James Hardens. It used to be Carmelo Anthony back in the day, Kobe Bryant. If you look at them, what you'll notice is they also get their shot blocked as much as anyone in the NBA. There's a real correlation between attacking the basket, drawing fouls, and getting your shot blocked. You can't do one without the other. You have to risk being willing to get your shot blocked here or there because you're going to draw fouls and you're going to keep the defense honest. So that's it. And then the last thing, I've talked about this a lot, just attacking the closeout. I don't know whose job this is in the NBA, like in an NBA coach, to kind of teach these characteristics of a team. But if I were with the Nuggets training staff or coaching staff, it'd be one of the things I'd say is, hey, we need to be an attacks closeout game, attacks closeout team. Meaning if you have an open shot, you need to see the court before the ball starts to swing. The ball starts to swing, you see, am I going to have time when the ball comes to get a shot off? And if not, then I need to catch this on the move. You might have the swing pass or what have you, but you need to read all those things. Do I have the swing pass? Do I have the jumper? And if not, you need to catch it on the move. The Utah Jazz do a great job of this. The San Antonio Spurs traditionally have done a good job of this. If you think about a Joe Ingles type, like Joe Ingles always shoots above 40% from 3. Well, one of the things that he's good at is he only takes shots when he's wide open, but he's also so good. Picture Joe Ingles in your head right now. Kick out comes to him, you run him, you try to close out at him. He's so good at catching on the move and attacking you as you're closing out, so your momentum is working against you. And this is why he takes actually fewer threes than you would think, but he actually gets open more from 3, in large part because teams are always worried that he's going to drive right past you. He's very good at getting into the paint and then making a decision. So to me, if I were on the Nuggets coaching staff, I'd be heavily emphasizing to guys like Austin Rivers, to Bones Hyland, to Facu Campazzo, even to Will Barton, to Marcus Howard, to Davon Reed. Try to catch the ball on the move if you're not open. If you're not in rhythm for a shot and there's not a swing pass, try to catch it on the move and attack, and I think it would make a huge difference. BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue to march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the #1 spot for all the best sports wagering action of 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Somebody says, I think we're discounting what a sprained ankle will do. The finesse of Bones' game, he can run, but that ankle won't be 100% for another 2 to 4 weeks. Possible. Entirely possible. I mean, look, this is another thing about the NBA season that it gets discounted. These guys are all so banged up, man. Like, nobody's 100%. Everybody's playing a little. I mean, Barton looks less than. Aaron Gordon looks less than. Jeff Green has moments. So there's no question that's part of it. But I think another part of the more I'm around the game, the more I think this is true. The mental aspect of basketball is so big, especially for guys at this level. When we're talking where the margin, these guys are so stinking good at basketball. People don't realize it. These guys are so good at basketball that the margins are so thin that a lot of this comes down to how much can you overcome. And this is like, we all famously, Kobe tore his Achilles. He goes back out there and he shoots free throws. And he always says, because mentally I had to prepare myself. Like, this isn't going to be easy. I need to start doing things hard right now. So this is what I would say with Bones' ankle. It's true. His ankle probably won't be good for another 2 to 4 weeks. But I would guess that in the future of his career, the next 10 years of his NBA career, he is probably an average health right now. Meaning there will be as much time ahead of him in the next 10 years where he is as healthy as he is now, as he is not healthy, as he'll be less healthy right now. Guys are just banged up and they have to play through things. And it's a mental challenge. That's part about being a rookie, is you learn all these different things. And so you're right. I think Bones will get a little bit healthier, but we've also seen him get, I think, 3 ankle injuries this year. And half the battle is, can you be your best when you're fully healthy, but can you be still really good even on those kind of ankles? And part of that is, can you keep attacking the basket and getting there? This next one, the third one. So I said each segment, I'm going to give you another thing that's the Nuggets problem. We've talked about this one a lot too, but the Nuggets are dead last, minus 16 net rating in second halves over the last 15 games. And really over the entire season, but most of that is the last 15 games. A negative 16 net rating. The Jazz are second worst over that span, by the way. Jazz sliding a little bit right now, but the Jazz are second worst over that stretch at minus 8. So Denver right now has double the net rating negative of the second worst team in the NBA. This is worse than the drive stat I just shared. They're getting absolutely curb stomped. And where it is not on the defensive end, although their defense hasn't been great on that end. I think it's 110, something like that. Their offense is a 95.5 offensive rating. That is atrocious. That is like the worst you could possibly imagine. And when you have Jokic on your team, and Jokic in second halves is playing like, 16, 17 minutes. So a lot of that is with Jokic on the court. What's going on? Well, I have a couple theories here. One of them is that this team just doesn't play very free. And I think this is another byproduct of these benchings. When you have your fully healthy roster, you don't worry about Jamal Murray's confidence or is he overthinking things? Will Barton overthinking, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic? You don't worry about any of those things. I think guys like Bones Highland know, hey, I have a bad half. I'm not playing anymore. I go 0 for 5. All of a sudden, that defensive lapse I had, I'm getting kicked off the court here. And I think some of this is playing into it with the Nuggets. I mean, Michael Malone in the last game in the press conference said there were guys that were passing up shots that look a little scared of the moment last night. And I look at that and I agree with them. Like, there were guys on the court, a lot of the guards on the court that looked like the moment was kind of starting to suffocate them a little bit. As I rewatch, I'm thinking, Monte Morris was really quiet in the fourth and Facu had the ball in his hands and he's doing everything. Well, I think some of this is Monte's fault. Now, I don't know what the team's dynamics are and why Facu was the guy that had the ball in his hands for almost every single possession, basically running point. But maybe part of it, and maybe this is what Michael Malone is alluding to, is that guys like Monte maybe need to step up and say, hey, let me handle the offense. You go to the corner now. I'm not going to stick in the corner. You go. Yes, the spacing might be a little bit less, but guess what? We only scored 27 points in the second half. Let somebody else kind of step up to the plate and handle this. But I think a lot of this does have to do with confidence, and in particular, some of the younger Zeke Naji. You need him to knock down shots. Is his confidence rattled because, his minutes kind of go like this and like this? I've said this a few times. Michael Malone has to have his reasons for why Bones Highland is sort of playing worse and worse and worse as the season goes on. There must be reasons that Michael Malone is sort of doesn't have that trust for him. But I think that there is a compounding effect where the benchings actually make it more likely that Bones will play worse enough to be benched in the future. They can also play a little bit faster. I mean, Michael Malone has talked about this, and I don't know that this is a coaching thing. Sometimes a player on the court just needs to speed up the tempo, but the Nuggets build these big leads, playing fast, getting switches in transition, taking advantage of those. And in the second half, you're up 10, like, okay, let's not blow this lead. You can't worry about that. You worry about that stuff in the final 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes of the game. But third quarter, you got to continue to push the envelope and try to play fast and play free. And then, like I said on here, for me, I think a lot of bones. There's just a lot more bones. The Nuggets have to get over the bones hump. I wish they already were. Some of this is COVID 2 times, protocols 2 times, ankle injuries a couple times. In fact, most of it is this. But nonetheless, I do feel like here at the 6-game homestand, I wish I felt more confident that Bones was in line for I wish he was more in line for like, oh, he's starting to come along and this is the perfect moment. Instead, we're kind of like, he just got benched. Hopefully the 6-game homestand, kind of lifts him a little bit, but we'll see. Guys, I see in the comments, some Michael Malone comments. Here's the thing. Michael Malone's a great coach. I mean, he's had this team in the Western Conference Finals. When they were fully healthy, they've been doing this or that. Don't like how he's handling certain specific situations here. The one thing I'll say about him historically is Michael Malone has sort of done his worst jobs right before he's done his best jobs. And I hope that's the case here, because I think he's done a pretty poor job over the last handful of weeks, facing the adversity that Denver had. Denver's had an enormous amount of adversity over the last 4 weeks or so. But usually he's very stubborn right until he makes the move. And then after that, things start to fall into to place. And I hope that will happen. That does it for me today, guys. A little bit of a live one. Do we have any questions here in the live chat? Why does the front office insist on bringing in guards who can't shoot or enable Jokic to punish double teams? I mean, first of all, shooting is difficult to get by. And second of all, Jamal Murray is a good shooter. Michael Porter Jr. is a good shooter. Even Marcus Howard is a good shooter. Monte Morris is a good shooter. Will Barton is a good shooter. So they have a handful of good shooters. What's happened is you've taken away Jamal Murray, you take away Michael Porter Jr., you take away even a Marcus Howard as a break in case of emergency. And in this last game, you take away Will Barton's three-point shooting. So you take away what might actually be 1, 2, 3, 4 of your best shooters on the team. Every team would struggle with. I mean, watch the Lakers right now. You know, they only need a handful of guys to go down. The Chicago Bulls have been great all season. They have 2 or 3 guys out of the lineup. They lose by 40 points to the Brooklyn Nets. This isn't just a Denver thing. So I do think Denver's front office has brought better ingredients to the table, and I think they value shooting. Don't forget, this is a group that's brought in Malik Beasley, Juancho, who was a 3-point shooter when he was here in Denver. It's not like they don't value 3-point shooting. Malone's a good coach, but he's not. JaMychal Green used to be a good shooter. I just don't know what happened. He used to be a good coach, but he's not very flexible. And in a COVID season, you need to be hyper flexible. Hey, that could be it too. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of things that are going in. I thought about this into the season. What teams or personality traits are going to be best suited for these funky years? You thought about this in the bubble, right? Like some players did not handle the bubble well. Being in isolation like that, used to partying a ton, this or that, and all of a sudden, like there's nothing to party. You're kind of stuck in the same little hotel day after day. Some guys, maybe some of the people listening to the show wouldn't mind that too much. They'd be like, you know what? It's Disney World. You're with some buddies. You got fishing, you got food, whatever. I can handle 3 months or whatever. Some guys couldn't. I do think this is the season of, and it's funny, Jokic, very flexible, right? After that game, everybody should go watch his presser, because after that game, he was asked about the frustration level, and he said, I'm prepared. Basically, he says, I'm prepared for this. I knew coming into this season, we were going to win some games that were really tough, and we're going to lose some games that should have been very easy. I just knew this season was going to be up and down, and mentally I'm prepared for it. And I just thought, like, how wise of Jokic here, like to just kind of have it. He's built for this year. He's built for that's why I always see the comment like, Jokic's going to get mad. He's going to get frustrated and want to leave and this or that. Like, I think Jokic is way more level-headed than everybody on Twitter and Reddit and what have you. So I think that I don't think you need to worry about those aspects of it. What you found with Jokic and AG yesterday, is that sustainable? I think Aaron Gordon is like that guy. He's just been injured. He's been banged up. That hamstring's been a little bit tight. He's been in second gear over the last handful of games. Last night, he ratcheted it up. I think that's the real Aaron Gordon. I'm a little worried about the fact that half of his time in Denver, he's been banged up to some degree. But I think what you saw last night is the Aaron Gordon you will get. And it'll be even more evident when you give him Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. I mean, he's a great cutter. He's really learning how to play with Jokic more and more. And once you have more spacing around those two guys, I just think he's going to be cleaning up. He's learning some valuable lessons through this season of adversity, in my opinion. That's kind of my take. All right, that does it, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in with me late at night here on a Wednesday. This will be Thursday's show. Like I said, Matt Moore and I will be back. I think it'll be Friday, probably sometime around noon. We'll go live right from this account. So if you're listening or you want to listen to it live at noon for your lunch hour on Friday, go ahead and subscribe to the Locked On Nuggets YouTube page. We're starting to grow that so we can do cool things like this right here. All right, everybody, we'll see you